welcome everybody. I'm Michael Bullock, the president for the Austin Police Association. Also with us is Christopher Irwin, who is the vice president of our communications here at the association. And today we have a very special guest, Council Member Mackenzie Kelly for District 6, who was very gracious to come in and talk with us about a highlight of your first term and the election coming up. So thank you very much for taking the chance to come over here and talk to us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is an amazing studio. I really like sitting here and like checking out your new digs.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's been a project in the making for some time, and now we're just, we're having fun with it and getting to enjoy using new technology. It's a wonderful thing. So, and we're just going to jump right into it. Obviously, you've been on council now, wrapping up the first term, and we're trying to go for the second one here. How do you feel the first term's gone? I
feel like it's gone pretty great. I mean, being the minority council member and being the only one who consistently is a fierce advocate for public safety seems like it would be a big challenge. And let me tell you, it is, especially, from an outsider perspective. I'm sure you see it from time to time, but it's given me the opportunity to really find ways that I can compromise with my colleagues and find areas of opportunity where we can make a difference. And I feel like I've done that time and time again, despite the challenges that have been ahead of me.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think have been kind of some of the biggest lessons that have been learned along the way?
Well, never assume anything. That's just a good lesson for life, right?
It's valid.
I wish I could say that I could trust everything that my colleagues tell me, but trust but verify is really important. Hear people out, but then go do your own research to find out what's really going on. It's usually somewhere in the middle. There's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and what's real. And just finding ways that I can make things better for Austin has been delightful, honestly. It's like a puzzle-solving game every time I go into work. Yeah. What do you think's been some of the more enjoyable projects you've gotten to work on? Oh, my gosh. I wish I could say license plate readers was enjoyable. We had an okay outcome to that. It wasn't the outcome I wanted. Sure. But digging into that policy, finding out why it was turned back in 2020 and then how we could get it to move forward now, I think that was really important. Yeah. It's impressive technology, isn't it? The amount of information that you get that leads to positive investigative leads and recovering people's property. It is a very important tool for the department. And when it went away, it was a big hit. And kind of like you said, we would love to see more of it because it is an important tool to have, especially when we see auto thefts that are rising and all kinds of other stuff. But it's an important tool. We definitely appreciate the work that you've done on that one. To have them back, they are still working on implementation. Lots of things is going on with it. But there's just so many places where it can be used. I mean, kidnappings. There was a girl who was kidnapped or abducted from Kansas, trafficked down here to Austin, and my understanding is they found her because of the license plate readers. So many case use studies. We've gotten leads and they've resulted in arrests for homicide suspects, robberies, aggravated robberies, burglaries, kidnapping, trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, all these high profile crimes that are tied directly to the ability to use license plate readers to find individuals who have present a serious threat to our city. Yeah, so to be the person on council who had to stand up against some of the rhetoric that was coming out from the opposition about that technology, I found it very interesting. There was somebody on council who was trying to fearmonger people into believing that it would be used to track people seeking abortions, which is laughable. And so in the moment, trying to come up in my mind with a way to counter that, it's like playing 3D chess. Yes. No, that's the joys of politics, right? Where you're trying to accomplish policy objectives. So, and I think that kind of goes to part of what we deal with a lot, just in general around public safety. And even, council deals with it too on the education aspect. Right? Where it's educating people on this is actually how it's used. This is really what we are doing with the technology, like you said, because I've sat in legislative hearings where, legislators don't understand why officers need to spend time at the range to shoot a weapon in order to become a licensed peace officer. Sorry, that's ridiculous.
Exactly. Then those are the reactions. But it was a genuine question, right? People were like, well, why do you need to do this? It's like, well, it's a pretty serious liability that everybody is taking on for an officer to have the ability to make life or death decisions, you would think you want them to actually know how to shoot the gun and to shoot it, well.
Yeah.
So like those types of education issues are definitely things that are important to address, and a lot of things that, it just comes up no matter what level, state level, city level, right? It's just constant, the education aspect.
Yeah. And I think that speaks more broadly to why I first ran in 2020. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of political discourse in 2020 surrounding the police department. Mm-hmm. And having a background in public safety, I felt like no one on council had that. Mm-hmm. And bringing that perspective was different. It was diverse. It was a way that I could utilize that role to educate them on their disastrous ideas and kind of walk through some of the unintended consequences or blind spots that maybe they didn't think of or weren't considering.
Yeah. How do you feel do you feel like the dynamics on council have changed at all from when you first started to kind of where we are now? Like, how do you feel like things have changed at all, if any?
Yeah, well, they've absolutely changed since we've gotten a new mayor. Our former mayor, when I was first starting on council, was just absolutely ridiculous. I don't think that he had the leadership ability to really be in that role and understand the diversity of opinions on council. And I think that a lot of times he cowered to some of the louder voices on council in order to push through things without fully thinking about them. Now that we have a new mayor, he's done a great job of really just making the meetings more efficient,
yes.
doing research,
yes.
Understanding, and it's just night and day difference.
Yeah.
So we still have a very left-leaning council, probably further to the left than I'd like, but it has been a lot more equitable in the way that we discuss things.
Yeah. And I will say, I definitely appreciate the fact that Mayor Watson has brought in that legislative knowledge. He knows how to run a meeting. He is very efficient. Like, he is familiar with procedure, and it makes it so much better to listen to council meetings, to participate in them. So he really does a good job on that one. And he's been a master of it for years.
Yeah, and he sticks up for people when other people from the community come up and start talking down or attacking council members. There's no more, hey guys. It's more like, sir, you are out of order.
Yeah.
You cannot personally attack a council member, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you still have to make it a reasonable environment for everybody to have their voice heard, right? Yeah. Like, that's what's really important. And it does seem like, from our perspective too, kind of seems like the tones have changed. Like, we're getting out of this, hopefully, overly contentious period, and folks do try to work together, right? Differing perspectives are always good, right? It hopefully it leads to better ideas, and it leads to us having more productive conversations that actually result in policies changing, not just talking about theoretics.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to good government, right? Having a diversity of opinions whenever you're having political discourse, as long as there's respect, you get the best outcome. And back to 2020, we didn't have that. Everybody thought the same way, and things just kind of got rubber stamped and pushed through on council without anybody really questioning what was going on, or stopping or pausing, or just taking a moment to breathe and say, is this really what's right for the city?
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely think it has changed fairly dramatically over a somewhat short period of time, all things considered.
Yeah.
So going into, we just wrapped up budget talks, obviously. Going into a new year, you're dealing with the campaign, but what are some of the issues that you kind of see coming up? Like, what's on the horizon that you think that the council is going to have to address?
We're absolutely going to have to address the 4-year contract with your people.
Yeah.
That's something that's really important. I know something that I'm working on, aside from, making sure that works out. Mm-hmm. I'm working on a public safety cadet housing program. So, DPS, they house their cadets on site when they go through the academy. The cost of living here is really high, and I think that if we want to attract the best and brightest, then we should give them a place to stay to help support them while they're going through the academy. The academy is not guaranteed for police, fire, or EMS, and I think by providing that housing and giving an environment where there's a cohort of people who can study together and just hang out and build that camaraderie, we'll have better outcomes.
Yeah, it is a big commitment because, like you said, it's at-will employment. It's not a guarantee. Like, everyone, once you start, if you finish, like, you're guaranteed a spot within the department. But like in the academy, a lot can happen. People can get injured. They're not able to complete it. They can fail academically. Like, some people aren't able to meet PT standards. Like, there's a variety of reasons. And it's a big commitment for someone that's new to pick up their life from wherever they are and move to Austin and
may or may not make it through the academy.
Yeah,
right.
That's a big
huge
ask. Gamble.
Yes, it is. It is.
So part of that is working with hoteliers, people who own hotels, and to potentially provide vouchers for individuals in the academy to stay until maybe we could get a bond or something to build something on the public safety training campus. I think that would really change our recruitment game and be a huge value add to all 3 public safety departments.
Yeah. I mean, and part of what we deal with too on the recruiting aspect is, I think it's a common misconception that we are only trying to recruit people that are local, and we don't. Like everybody in law enforcement is competing for candidates, right? Everyone's competing for cadets. So it's happening on a national scale that we're trying to get people to come to Austin and trying to stand out, trying to provide ways of showing people this is why you should come here, especially with, what we're coming out of and a lot of the issues we've had, with the volatility and officers being targeted and all that other kind of stuff. Like it's quite the task to convince people that this is the right place. We want people to come here, and we just have to be able to find ways of getting them to do that.
Well, so I was born and raised here, and I'm old enough to remember when Austin Police Department was like well known all across the country, and there were lines to get recruited to come work here. And I just want to get back to that. I know that we're there. We just have to do everything we can to continue that, especially coming out of what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
I think this is a good way to try.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think all innovative ideas that are different from what we're doing now, like that's how we're going to improve and get out of a tough spot that we're in right now. And that's what we want to, right? Like obviously we want to see that we do get back to where we were. And, even not that long ago, right? When I first came to the department, it was extremely competitive to get in. Like it was not a guarantee. And as someone who grew up in Austin too, it's like I wanted to be here. Like we value the city, we like our city, we love our city, and we want to see it succeed. And so it's rough to see when we went from being on the premier list of agencies to work for to now we're struggling to recruit, right? Just because of how far behind we've fallen. So like it gets frustrating for officers too, but we all want to get back to that point.
And I think we can.
Yeah.
Well, I know we can.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I absolutely agree with you. I think there is a way to do it. You pointed it out, like contract stuff are big issues, right? Those are things that will play a key role in us being able to recruit new people to actually come here. Right. So that stability is very important.
Well, and I'm hopeful that will be resolved in the next few months so that I can see it through before the end of my first term. I think that's really important. And I know that I'll be working closely with you all at EPA to ensure that everything's in there that you need. And once it's tentatively agreed to, that we're able to move forward in a positive way. I can't imagine what it's like other than from what I've heard from your officers about the uncertainty. I mean, at any moment, I hear that council can take the ordinance away for pay and benefits. And I'm like, I really don't think we'll do that. But just to have that thought in your mind has to be horrible.
Yeah, it is. It creates a whole other, like I said, layer of stress where like you're already dealing with a stressful job. We're dealing with short staffing. You're dealing with everything else and all these other thoughts just because of the history that's there. That's not necessarily the fault of everybody that's on council right now, but actions by previous council that puts a lot of doubt in people's minds. And so that's definitely just an added stressor that we would love if it weren't there, but it's just kind of the reality of where we are right now. So, but that's, we are in a spot where I think hopefully we're getting close. We're about to push past it, and we are going to be able to get to a place where we have a lot more stability, and we can at least check one of those stressors off and be like, that's no longer a factor.
Right.
So,
well, and I appreciate it so much. The way that I've seen APA really handle the negotiations, I feel like it's been less stressful in the sense that you're not as combative as prior council negotiations have gone in the past. Not that you all were responsible for that, but I mean, other council members who are no longer on council have said some pretty divisive things, and it's just made it worse, fanning the flames, making things more difficult. And I don't think we need to necessarily be that way. I mean, yes, you need to stand up and fight for the rights of your association and your members, but at the same time, there's a way to do that that's respectful and still makes meaningful progress instead of just throwing bombs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm relatively new president here to the association, so we're trying a lot of new things. We're taking different approaches. Like we are here to work with council because at the end of the day,
even though like some people may find it hard to believe, the realities that we share between the city, the department, and the association, like we share a lot of the same priorities. We want a fully staffed department that takes care of our city, that has happy employees, that are like loving the work that they do, because then they're going to do a better job of taking care of the community. And it's also breaking down a lot of those misnomers that people think that we're anti, accountability, and we're not. Right?
Exactly.
Officers are not against accountability, just like anybody else. They just want to make sure that they have due process and that their rights are protected. Like everyone just wants a fair system.
But if you think about it, that is a very convenient talking point for the other side, right? They can throw that out there and nobody's going to fact check them, and people are going to believe it. I mean, it happens with my campaign too. People throw things out there and think it'll stick, and it's not true. And then I have to backtrack and correct the record, which is hard.
I think one of the key things too is that officers who are coming to work here in the city of Austin, it's not a mystery what Austin's ideas are. Austin has been this way for a long time. Yeah. It's one of the few conversations you're going to hear with 3 people who grew up in the city of Austin. We're all familiar with it. It hasn't changed in the 35 years that I've been around the city of Austin, and the 13 years I've been with the Austin Police Department. And so that mentality of, they want to be completely removed, they want to be different. No, they know what it is. They know the city they're signing up to work in. They know what they're signing up to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty public information.
Yeah. It is no secret about the system that we live under. Everybody knows what you're coming to. But, the reason that we've struggled with staffing for, now going on 6-7 years, I think is because everyone knew it previously, but you also knew that, you were being compensated for very high expectations. And now with contract uncertainty being a commonplace thing, we've moved to a spot where it's just too unstable for folks, and we've fallen behind, and that's just led us to, and throw in there a DA that's actively targeting officers, and you just throw in an environment where people are not attracted to come here.
Yeah.
So,
let's make it attractive.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely think that I think we can do.
Done.
I think, yes, agreed. We are ready to move forward. So have been. So it's been, ongoing efforts here, but I think we're definitely making progress overall on a lot of things and trying to work, like I said, on all these other issues. There's other things that we can work on, finding alternative ways of alleviating the call load from law enforcement. Some of the stuff that we've talked about and I've talked about with other council members is finding ways of trying to further divert mental health calls, right, away from law enforcement having to go to them and other people taking on that responsibility, right? Like if there's things that law enforcement doesn't need to go to, it's all a City of Austin team, essentially, at the end of the day. If there's someone else that's better suited to it, like we're not so, arrogant to think that we're the ones that have the answers to everything. Like, no, there's definitely other people that are better at doing things than we are. Like our job is to handle the actual immediate public safety needs. Like that's our area of expertise. Yeah. So, there's a lot of alternative ideas out there to try to figure out how we address these problems.
That makes sense. Totally. Yeah. I'll tell you one other thing that irks me is when the opposing side to public safety will say that Travis County or DPS doesn't have a G file. I'm like, well, they don't fall under Chapter 143 of the...
Yeah, it's kind of how that works.
And I actually called out one of my colleagues on that in a CBS Austin forum on public safety because he kept talking about that. And I'm like, it's disingenuous to compare the two. You're comparing apples to oranges. They're not the same.
Yeah, no, Austin is, it's very different. And, it is a valid point in that even if other cities don't have the exact, or counties don't have the same exact system and type of protections that we do per se, they also don't have the same issues and political volatility that we have. So like you said, it's apples and oranges. Like it's not a direct comparison because the support is different, the politics are different, the populations are different. Like there's so many other mitigating factors that come into play on that kind of stuff. So
well, and one of the things I really appreciated about our new city manager was that when he got here, he spent time with council members, as you do, I guess, if you've got 11 bosses.
Right.
It's too many bosses. I don't think I could handle it. And I used to tell Spencer all the time, I don't know how you deal with 11 different bosses with 11 different personalities and 11 different or more priorities. It's crazy. But he sat with me for an hour, and I really explained to him the difference in dynamic here in Austin and how unique it is, especially surrounding policing. And he asked some really great questions, and we still, when we meet, he has clarifying questions or suggestions and ways that we might be able to do things better. And his open-mindedness I like a lot.
Yeah. No, I agree. Actually, I've had the chance to talk to him, a number of different times and interacted with him, and I think he is. It definitely comes across like he is very vested in trying to find ways of actually addressing problems, and he is here to try to find a way to make things better. So, he's still relatively early on and just getting started on some of this stuff, but it seems like overall, it seems like he's doing a pretty good job to me. So, and we don't have to interact with him every day, quite like you do. But that kind of, sitting here thinking about it, like you've been around for some pretty significant changes.
Oh my gosh.
Like the world changes almost every year, it seems like. And now you've gone through, city manager searches. You've gone through now chief search too. It's been, and then we've dealt with contract stuff and votes and 2020 and there's been a lot that's happened since you've been on council.
It's so much. I feel like every day is different, which I love, because the day that my job is the same as the day that I'm not going to be interested in it anymore, right? So also the day that I don't get any complaints about people experiencing homelessness, I'll probably have to quit my job, because every day I get complaints about that. But you're right. We've been through 3 city managers now. 3 police chiefs. Like it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And understanding those processes, I also realize in my role, it took me probably a year and a half before I felt really comfortable and confident about the work that I was doing without having to second guess myself as much. I still do second guess myself, but I have checks and balances. It's really difficult to get a new council member up to speed on what they're doing. And in that regard, I really hope that my second term is stronger because I won't have to figure everything out again.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to be said for that continuity. Like, I think, it was very noticeable when overall Austin switched from the at-large to the 10-1 council, right? Like, you have a whole bunch of new people that come in that don't have the experience or, don't have the institutional knowledge. Right. Like there's a big learning curve, right? That goes along with that. So, there's definitely something to be said for having that continuity and being able to know, like, you're not starting from scratch.
Right.
Like you're already in place. You're able to hit the ground running and basically just continue on with what you've already been working on and able to identify a lot of the problems that are going to come up and how to address them. So I definitely think there's a lot to be said for the experience that comes in with all of that.
Yeah, I've been really blessed. I have a great team who's there behind me working and ensuring that we're doing the best we can. I bounce ideas off of them and they're like, that one's great. Nope, we're not doing that. And I'm like, but I want to.
Yeah.
But there is that institutional knowledge, and I think it's really important. And constituent services is so important. And so knowing which department to contact to get things done is important. And it's such a blessing to be in this role. I never really thought I'd be able to do this, especially, growing up with that large council where everybody lived within 5 miles of downtown.
Right.
They all had so much money. They self-funded their campaigns. I remember when I first ran in 2014, I had no idea what I was doing. None at all. I just jumped on the ballot, thought that I could do this. And, my grandfather, this is so funny. He had lived here for a very long time. And he told me, kiddo, you don't have stick-to-itiveness. You didn't grow up with power or money, and there's no way you're going to ever get on council. And then I spent the next 6 years really learning what to do to run an effective campaign, and I did it.
Yeah.
And he passed away and never got to see me, get to this position. But, he's kind of right. Until we switch from at-large to single-member districts, I don't think someone like me really had a chance to represent the community.
Yeah. District representation does have, it has those effects, right? Where you draw in a different applicant pool of people that are willing to put their name in the hat for stuff. Yeah. So it's definitely been an interesting ride because we're still all things considered relatively new to still implementing 10-1, right? So that's like I said, it's been an interesting ride so far. So,
well, and your district in particular is one that not a lot of other council members are having to deal with. You have multiple school districts.
Yep.
You're in multiple counties.
Yep.
And I just think that's a dynamic where, no, you need somebody specific to that area that has that knowledge base that's willing to and able to work with everyone.
Yeah, so our sheriff, Mike Gleason, Williams County Sheriff, he was my school resource officer when I was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, we ran calls together when I was at the Jollyville Fire Department when he worked for the sheriff's office. So like things like that, like nobody else has that. Like nobody has those relationships like I do.
Yeah, I guess we really probably should have addressed at the very beginning the fact that we let a firefighter into our house here. Like that's.
And I'm in my recruit shirt.
I know.
At least it's okay. I mean, I did notice what university that came from, so that's okay.
Yeah. Was it the teak shirt? Is that what it is?
It's
Okay.
Teak.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That says the Aggie. That's right here. Like it's. I don't know how I feel here now.
I was a beta tester for their online fire academy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you do that one?
So gosh, that was probably around 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting now how so many things have moved to that, to more of the online training and type stuff. So even fire.
Well,
right?
that was after I already had my master fire certification from the Texas State Firemen Fire Marshal Association. I just did it for fun.
Yeah.
Let me beta test this class.
Yeah. There you go.
I like learning.
Yeah,
Their on-site
good.
facility is top notch.
Oh, my
so, I mean,
gosh.
I was there
Disaster City.
07 through 10, and so seeing everything that they had going constantly is amazing.
I was there in February for incident commander class. It was really great. It was with other City of Austin people. It was amazing. You should see my TDEM transcript. It's like 10 pages long. I take ICS classes, or not ICS classes, excuse me, the IS classes from FEMA for fun.
Yeah. For fun?
Yeah.
You are brave.
Yeah, you are a
It's
brave
so much
soul.
fun, though, to learn stuff. I mean, I need something to fall back on when I'm no longer elected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. Let's not talk about that. Okay. Keep learning. That's always good.
Well, it helps in my role, too. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, speaking of, we've also gone through quite a number of natural disasters of sorts here, like
We have.
with floods, ice, snow, power issues, all that other kind of stuff. Like, how do you think that we've come out of all of that and moving forward? Like, are we getting into a better spot? Like, how do you think all that's being handled?
well, my hope is we're in a better spot, but the last 2 days have really shown me that we still have a long way to go because of power outages in East Austin. So aside from that, I think we're doing a lot better. I knew there was something wrong in our HSEM department early on to being here. I worked in Williamson County in emergency management for a couple of years. And so some of the inconsistencies I saw was like, there's something going on here. I don't know what it is. It's not my job to deal with staff. I'll bring it to the attention of the city manager. So I told Spencer. Spencer didn't do anything, which now that I look back, let's talk about being a brand new council member. You don't know what is what and how things are supposed to work, much less how a city manager is supposed to really run a city.
Yeah.
So I just trusted Spencer almost implicitly that he was doing a good job. Well, when the first incident happened, that was really bad. He kept us out of the, circle of knowledge, us council members. And so I was at home without power, without water, trying to figure out what was going on. And I asked him for situation reports. At the very least, can you send us a sit rep that's already being created so that we as council members can have a 30,000 foot view of what's going on? I didn't even get that. So I went to CapCog to get access to WebEOC so I could see what was going on. And that was my first indication, okay, something is really wrong with the way that the city manager is not including council members in these communications. And then following that, we had another winter storm when Kirk was elected, the mayor. And I remember a phone call with him, and he was like, something's really wrong. And I was like, yeah, something's really wrong. I think we need to make some changes, but we can't do personnel changes. So it's getting rid of the city manager. Within 2 weeks of him being fired, the interim city manager came to council members and told us he had siloed each department. And so, interoperability wasn't existent, which caused a worse situation, I think, than we would have normally had. And as far as interoperability goes, with public safety, it's so key.
Yeah.
You can't be working in a silo, and you can't have the left hand not talking to the right hand. You have to work together with a coordinated effort to ensure that things are positive.
Yeah.
So I think, following that, and then now with the new city manager, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Well, and you going in and having this institutional knowledge of all these things and knowing behind the scenes, knowing the right questions to ask is crucial. Like,
absolutely.
If you're not going out there, you can't act in the best interest of your constituents, of everyone in your district. And what really matters, keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
Keeping the lights
absolutely.
on, keeping the roadways clear. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I did actually following the second winter storm, I paid very close attention to the press conferences. And Elton Richards is one of the vice presidents over power over at Austin Energy. He's one of my favorite people. I actually convinced him to let me learn how to climb a power pole.
No
and
way.
I was like, I've climbed fire truck ladders. Like, I can climb a power pole.
I didn't do that.
So it was pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole thing to it. There's pictures and anyway. But one of the things he said is, we've got some bad news, and it's not like spoiled meatloaf. You don't push it to the back of the refrigerator. You pull it out and you talk about it.
Yeah.
And he talked about how past council members and policies prevented them from properly trimming the trees. And so I thought about that, and I was like, okay, well, we are a very tree-friendly city.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason for this. But how, as a council member, can I get the information that I need to give Austin Energy the cover to trim the trees and to get them the budget to trim the trees? And so I authored a resolution that did an audit of Austin Energy's vegetation management plan. And sure enough, as I expected, in the report, it came out that prior councils had caused them to not trim the trees properly, and they were behind on their vegetation management, and they needed additional funding. And so I'm really proud that that actually was done and that I authored that, passed it, and now we can make sure that there aren't tree trims around power lines, which seems like common sense, but apparently it wasn't that common to prior councils.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, those are, like you said, what you would think would be minor, right?
Yeah.
Things you're just like, well, this just seems like it would be common sense. And it's not being done, right? And things that you got to do in order to catch up with all of that. Like, it just seems like there's been areas, and it definitely seems like we've made progress, but there's been so many areas where we've fallen behind, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of the theme, where we have fallen behind things and there's just catching up to do. And all you can do is chip at them one at a time, right?
Yeah.
Just start chipping away at them and start making progress. So
I have a wish list, and I've authored policies that we may not use, but I have in a folder just in case.
yeah.
When the opportunity is right, I've got
out
to
the
pull it
folder?
out.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. All right. I am curious. How tall was this power pole?
So they are very tall.
Okay.
The one that I climbed was 30 feet tall, but I didn't get all the way up there. I got about 15 feet up, but I had all the gear on. It happened to be the hottest day of the year, which was really stupid. I was sweating
Of course.
buckets.
Yeah.
But there's a real specific way that you climb a pole, and it's ridiculous.
I know. I guess they do have pole climbing competitions.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty
really
impressive.
It's what I like about it is that everybody who works at Austin Energy, especially the line workers, they seem like a family.
Yeah.
And that's what I got out of the fire department, right? I'm sure it's the same for APD. It's just
yeah.
a big family.
It is. And, there's always a little friendly competition amongst family members that happen between
Right.
us, fire, EMS.
Yeah.
And even, we've interacted, I have numerous times on patrol with Austin Energy, variety of things that happen when power lines go down, all this
Yeah.
other kind of stuff. So it's crazy when, you kind of get into the thick of everything, how everybody gets along, and it really does, there's a lot of interoperability
Yeah.
between everybody. So
Well, you're all working towards the same goal, which is to help people who live in the city.
exactly. Like you said, it's that we are all part of the same team. At the end of the day, that's the whole goal, is to take care of our city.
Yeah.
So, and I do, one of the things that you've also been very involved in over the years that I think actually is a really good example of how well we do some things. And for public safety, it is related to that interoperability with our CAST team, right?
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, right, CAST is the counter assault strike team, but it's also part of a joint mission between us, EMS, and then fire participates as well. And it's been one of the most, it's the model, right?
Yeah.
Before the active attack response even really started becoming popular everywhere, and there's dedicated training for it and all that, Austin was doing that, right? And we've had this program in place where we attach officers with a paramedic, and in particular being deployed at large-scale events and downtown, and the response times are incredible. There's been cases where we have had negative response times, meaning that before a 911 call was even made, because police and EMS were talking and we knew what was going on, we had a paramedic with high-level care on scene to a critically injured patient before anyone had ever even notified us of it really happening, via our CAD system or something like that. And I think that's a big reason why our homicide rate is not higher than what it is, right? It's gone up over the years, undoubtedly. But the only reason it's not out of control is because we've been trying these innovative solutions before it was ever even popular. Like, we've been trying to find better ways of taking care of our citizens long before other people started doing what we've been doing for years.
Well, I love that innovation. I mean, you have to try new things to make things work. And that is a prime example of ensuring that we have the best public safety in Austin. And the response is so important. I think back to when Douglas Cantor was shot and killed, and how that response was just really, like, it was not as coordinated as it could have been. But if we had a CAST team downtown at the time of that, I think the outcome could have been a lot different. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue to fund that program and ensure that it has future success.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it has been great. They are, deployed downtown now on a regular basis. And so there's been, learning lessons that happen on the way. It's sad that a lot of times it does come from tragedy, but we're always trying to find ways of being better, which is good. So, how's your campaign going?
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Oh, getting closer to the election coming up. So what are some of the things that you've been working on, trying to highlight throughout the campaign?
Well, just, my background in public safety is really important. Being that voice up on the dais, talking about why we have to do things the way that we do them, and having the voice of authority in that regard, fully understanding a lot of the things that come before council. I think that's really important. Not going back to 2020. It was a really hard time, and a lot of things happened that changed the future of our city for the worse. I mean, our staffing currently at the police department is a direct result of the failed policy that was passed in 2020 to remove funding from the police department and to stop all the cadet academies and removing vacant positions. Yeah. And my concern is that, and I think a lot of people who support my campaign realize this, if we lose my seat on the council, then we're going to lose that political diversity that is so important to good government.
Yeah. No, like you said, kind of what we talked about earlier, right? That diversity of thought.
Yeah.
Right? That's very important to make sure that we do find ways of doing things better, right? Yeah. Like, if we're not open to other people's ideas or concepts, doesn't mean we have to agree on everything.
Right.
But if you're not trying to find ways of being better and, alternative ideas, then you're just going to fall behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my opponent is supported by Jimmy Flanagan, who I beat in 2020 because of what he did on council to support the actions that led us to where we are with police staffing. My concern is that if she does get elected, not only will we lose that political diversity, but we'll get back to where we were in 2020. And we don't need to go backwards in time. I think our council is doing great, like we talked about earlier. We are very positive, we are very respectful, and we get good things accomplished together.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that we are moving into a better era of actually doing some problem solving, right? Yeah. Where we're actually making some things happen. There's still, not to say that all the problems are solved, because there's still plenty of work left to do. But it definitely seems like council has moved into a spot where everybody is working together, and it's more about the work product more so than, just political talking points and everything else that goes along with it. So, how can people find out more about your campaign?
Yeah, so you can learn more about me at Mackenzie4Austin.com. And then if you'd like to donate to my campaign, any of your members, I will redact the information on where they live from my campaign finance report. But you can do that at Mackenzie4, the number 4 again, ATX.com.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to, before we wrap up, anything else that you want to kind of convey here?
Yeah, I mean, I just really appreciate meeting your members out in public. It's a great thing. A lot of them make me smile, and just they say nice things to me, and I can tell they genuinely appreciate the work that I'm doing. I do feel lonely sometimes up there on the dais, but I also understand and appreciate there are a lot of people who support me that I just don't know about, and I'm learning that every single day that I'm out there campaigning, knocking on doors, in the community, passing out yard signs. And I just appreciate that support. It means the world to me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, we appreciate everything that you have done over the years for the police department, as well as for all of public safety in our city. So for anyone who may not have seen, we are very proud to have endorsed Councilmember Kelly in her reelection. So we are, behind you and wish you all the best as we're moving into the campaign election getting closer. But we do genuinely appreciate everything that you've done. We know you work hard, you fight hard, and our officers know and see everything that you're doing. So public safety is a major issue. A lot of people see it. Like, a lot of people are wanting these things addressed. So it's nice to have someone that's willing to fight and be the outspoken voice on it. So I'm hoping we're moving into a spot where more of council is seeing that as well, and the need to really focus on public safety. And I think it's getting there. But you definitely have been the standout in it. So we very much appreciate it. And again, very proud to endorse you in your campaign. So
thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So we appreciate everybody that took the time to listen and watch with us. So on behalf of the Austin Police Association, thank you, Councilmember Kelly, for joining us, and for everyone that took the time to listen in.